Welcome everyone to the 2014 Top 10 Best Films. As you know, I watch a very large vocabulary of volume of films. And let me tell you, this is the hardest year I've ever had in making this list. Because this year has been some of the best films I've seen in a very long time. We never had this many great films, I could say, in probably the last 15 years. Easily could say that. This is an astonishing year. I think they finally got it right, that we got to start looking more and supporting these indie type films. But I won't make this video super long because people will get on my back for doing that. So let's kick it off right now. Number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy. People are gonna say, how in the world did you put this movie in the top 10 over movies like Selma and definitely there were other movies that could have made this list, but yet you put it up there with Selma and all the rest of the great movies. What about like Edge of Tomorrow? I would have put that in there. It's original. And Guardians of the Galaxy took a Marvel sci-fi movie and basically Christopher Pratt became Han Solo. It was the modern day Han Solo, scoundrel with heart. And he was able to carry a film with other personalities supporting it and make a very powerful, visually stunning too, film that had so much heart in this character as to why he was so damaged, why he was so flawed, because his childhood was dealt with his mom passing away from cancer and her battle with it, that he was struggling to deal with that even as a child, because right after it he was taken away. So it was a very powerful film there for those reasons involved. Not, let alone it's always had comedy sidekick and the people who faces you didn't see because they were like animated characters, like Bradley Cooper. He just nailed it as Rocket. It was very powerful film, very funny, and the rewatchability of it is, record pacing. I don't think I need to tell you about it, let alone the soundtrack. But number 9, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, this movie was very high up on my list when it first came out. Other films came out and ended up knocking it down, but it still doesn't take away from the great performances by the great Robert Redford. And this was more of a espionage type film than a superhero type film. It was like Captain America. What separates him and makes him different from the other characters is that he's a human being. It's like he can't fly. Of course, he's stronger than a lot because of the serum, but he's still a man. So he has to deal with situations without having really superpowers and not being able to use I-beams and all of this high-tech gadget stuff. He's still boot to the ground, running around and doing tasks. And this is what people can relate to because, of course, some people are human. So, but it was a great story, great acting. Samuel L. Jackson, still one of the best actors to pull off his character and role, and him working with Robert Redford just shows you Samuel L. Jackson can hold his weight in the room with any great actor in the world, because he's one of them. Number 8 is Interstellar. This is especially, I saw it in its highest quality. It is one of the most powerful films that embodies heart, imagination, and the grit of society or what could be coming. So Matthew McConaughey, Jessica Chastain, everybody killed their performances. It was just, I felt that even her role was kind of different from what we're normally seeing Anne Hathaway play, but her role was so important because she was driven by a mission on two levels. On the fact that, yes, let's save mankind, but she also was driven by love. You know, just unexplainable love, and just part of her mission to want to be there. You know, and end up playing a very pivotal role as far as like where the movie goes. Even though this kind of like begged off of the, I don't want to give the ending away, but hell, you should have saw it already. When he go in that black hole, okay, go back and watch the Lego movie. When Emmett falls into the hole and goes into the earth, when he goes into the real world, look at that scene and look at Lego movie, and they gonna say, man, they stole this from the Lego movie. That's all I'm gonna say. Number 7 is the Nightcrawler. The Nightcrawler is an original type piece. Like they haven't made a movie like this since like the 80s. It's kind of like how Drive was, except for a more creepier version of Drive. You know, it's a horror film basically. You know, a lot of people thinking Nightcrawler, the superhero, when they saw it pop up, Jake Gyllenhaal is Nightcrawler. I don't think he's gonna play a good Nightcrawler. No, not the Marvel character. A Nightcrawler is these guys that they call the media, who they're not even media, they're amateur film that you see on the news. Like someone shoots something with their camera, they go out at scene of the crime, something happened right by their house, they take a picture of it or they videotape it, they get the closest angles they can, and they sell it to the news. And some of the footage you see on the news, you know, it's like freelance journalism, which is putting, you know, regular movie media cameras, you know, they putting them out of a job. Because everybody's got a little cell phone, amateur cell phone video or something going down, and they sell it to the news. But this gets a little bit creepier as this guy takes it, Jake Gyllenhaal character takes it to a whole nother level. Number 5, Whiplash. Now, I mean, I skipped 6. 6 is The Imitation Game. And that's Cumberbatch's probably his best performance I've seen to date so far. I haven't seen too much of him. When I do see him, he seems to be in smaller roles. But I watch his performance, and his performance is, I mean, bar none. You know, this is during the actual war where people didn't even know that we had a team of scientists to break the actual Enigma code. Enigma is the machine that the Germans used to translate all their messages through. And I'm going to be truthfully honest with y'all right now. Watching this movie, I knew nothing about the story, about what this movie was about. I go in there to watch this movie, so I'm getting a raw take of it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I basically came up with the premise to break the Enigma code halfway into the movie. That's my honest to God truth. To the answer and the solution they got down the road, I figured that out halfway in the movie. So I wonder if they tried this. Just pat on my back for that. But again, great performances. Keira Knightley gives one of the best performances I've ever seen her deliver. So I felt that that's another pat on her back. She was in another great movie this year with a guy who really should be getting more credit for his performance, but I can't think of the movie's name right now off the top of my head. When she was supposed to be engaged to this guy and end up best friending his 13-year-old and staying with her. But that was a good movie. And my guy, one of my favorite actors, is in there. He always bridges a movie together. Comedic genius, top of his head. I can't think of his name right now. But he was the only bright spot in Iron Man 2. But let's don't get caught there. Let's go to number 5, which y'all already know is Whiplash, because I already jumped the gun. But Whiplash, oh my God, this movie here, come on. It could have easily been number 1 on this list. Whiplash is good for a lot of reasons. You know, some people, they come out, they hype a movie so much and give it so much praise. You're like, okay, this, alright, it's not going to be this good. It is this good because of J.K. Simmons. This is the Karate Kid, the R version of the Karate Kid. when Unpatient Mr. Miyagi. J.K. Simmons plays this, like, he's the coach, or what you would call, plays Terrence Fletcher, this coach of this, not coach or manager, whatever, of these musicians. And Andrew is his drummer. And he's supposed to play things on a tempo, and he's very, 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 very intense. You know, as a band teacher, J.K. Simmons throwing chairs at Miles Teller if he missed a note. And I understand how this perfection, musicians, some of the best in the world, they have their own idiocracies that are just way, way bizarre than anybody you've known. The higher up the level, the more bizarre they are. Somebody may only wear pink socks and some panties while they're practicing music. It's really, really weird people. So I understood the gravity of the movie. But Whiplash, the performance, it totally, you saw Miles Teller always play the same type of roles. He's the witty jerk, he's the witty jerk, he's the witty jerk. No growth in his acting. Well, I said he had the best agent in Hollywood because I didn't know how he was getting these roles. And then to see him in something like this, and I was like, oh wow, the kid, there's something here. You know, the kid can really put it together when he needed to. He was also in the best film last year, in the top 10. I believe too. He played in a movie that was great. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. And let's just move on because I don't want to make this list super long. Number 4 is The Birdman. And some people might say, what do you mean? Why Birdman is so high? Or why Birdman isn't higher? All of these movies here has potential to be number 1, or probably was number 1 as soon as I walked out the theater. But then I had to think about what was ahead of it. Birdman is a story with Michael Keaton. I've done the review already, so you should already know. But Michael Keaton's performance in Birdman this is the story of his life. This is what happened when he played Batman. Birdman is a character he played that was very successful. He did like 3 films with Birdman, and all of them were epic, and he just was tired of it. And he walked away on Birdman's and didn't do any more when they offered him hundreds of millions of dollars to do mediocre roles, and he basically went into obscurity, and now he's using the Broadway as his comeback, to launch his own comeback. And this play that he's working on, it has so much raw acting, and it's almost in one shot, or it's like one take rather, the way the filming is, or the way it was designed to be filmed. And I think Alejandro's the director. I'm not really too sure about it, but his directing style was great. It's like you stayed with it the entire film. It's like the whole movie would seem like it was shot in one take, the way they did it, and it was just epic. Epically great movie, basically from the acting. Edward Norton is not getting the credit he deserved. Edward Norton really took this movie to a new height. Once Edward Norton's character came into the film, it became his movie. He was the X factor in the movie that really just gravitated it to another level. And it showed you the level of pure acting. And if anybody ever wanted to be an actor, watch Birdman and decide if that's what you want to be. You're a movie star or an actor. This is exactly the type of film you need to watch to decide if this is what you want to do. Number 3, a most violent year. What more could I say? I mean, it may come out for major release this year, or this week actually, but I can't wait to go back to the theater to see this movie. I saw this movie like a month ago and didn't do a review on the film because I didn't know if I was allowed to. then I saw everyone else doing it and I said, oh, okay, well, I guess it is okay to do it. But it's one of those films that come out at the end of the year that may get nominated for Best Picture and win a lot of awards, but it comes out in like the beginning of January, and it's hard to squeeze these movies in to the reviews. A Most Violent Year is Oscar Isaac's breakthrough role, and I will take great credit for noticing him. Inside Llewyn Davis' performance just got him on the map, but I've known this actor since he was in that terrible movie with this terrible actress, and the movie was such a flop. It had so much great CGI action scenes in it, and he played like a nightclub owner. He played the villain in this movie. I can't think of the name of it. It was so bad. And it was in my worst films of that year, but he was the only bright spot in the film. And he was outstanding in every performance he's ever done. And he's in the new Star Wars, so what that's got to tell you. But he plays a guy, I think, named Abel Morales in 1981, and he's trying to get this fuel business, of his going through the most violent times in New York City's history. It's just like a violent year, and he's trying to do this, and Jessica Chastain is his wife, and she's coming from a mob background, and she doesn't really like his calm demeanor of trying to deal with the situation. Now, I'm not saying he's an up and up guy, he's not, but he's trying to do the right thing. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, she's got a whole different mentality of dealing with the situation. And this is most of a, it's like a build up to where you're like, okay, I'm waiting for a lot of things, or like a lot of violence, and a lot of people were kind of kicked this movie off their list because they thought they were going to see a lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of violence. A lot of the violence happened off camera. It's the acting and the performances that put this movie and catapult you all the way there, because you were so engaged in this film. A Most Violent Year is definitely top 3 easy. I don't know how it's not on anybody's list. I really don't. It's really disappointing to me when I see a list and don't see something that's an obvious pick. And that is definitely one of the obvious picks of the year. Then you have the period drama, which is my number 2 film, which was my number 1 for a long time, for half the year, which was Belle. I haven't seen Belle on anybody's top 10 list. I haven't seen it in honorable mentions. Belle is the number 2 best movie of the year. It's inspired by the true story of Dido Elizabeth Belle. Everybody thought Beyond the Lights was Gugu Mbatha-Raw's like breakthrough performance, and it wasn't. Belle was her breakthrough performance. That was her American, I guess, for the people who never saw on the big screen before this was, but my goodness, Belle is what set the stage. She was a half, mixed girl. Her mom was not a slave, but just black, mixed race, and then her father was Captain John Lindsay, and he was, all his awards he did in the naval service, he got the awardness of Sir. So her tale is she helped basically played a major role, important role and stopping slavery in England, and definitely the slave trade that was happening in England at that time. And she became one of the most powerful women, period, in the world, and basically in England, because the British admiral, he was the basically the judge and jury over anything in law at that time. When they have to go to the court, he was the main guy. The British admiral was also one of the head judges who made the decisions on who was at fault and who wasn't at fault. And during the slave trades, to save time, if the slaves were injured or sick from the travel, what they would do is dump their losses and drop bodies into the ocean. Black slaves dumped into the ocean. They all chained together. They just cut them off, throw them a boulder over the water and drop them in the water and let them drown and die. And then what they would do is the people who insured them, they would come back and sue the insurance, or get an insurance claim on the slaves like they were property. And the insurance company would pay them for it. And so the insurance company wanted to do an investigation to see why is these slaves being treated like this. And during the investigation, they were finding out there was plenty of stops they could have made to get help for the slaves, but they didn't want to do it because it was going to cut into their time, and they'd have spent more time, loss of time and all of this. So why not cut their losses and just get their money back from the insurance company? So the insurance company refused to pay for the slaves because they said, well, y'all just killed them when y'all could have stopped and did something about it. So it was insurance fraud. So both sides are fighting over the situation, and Belle ended up learning what was happening. But, because she grew up in royalty. When her father passed, he left her money that she wouldn't have to worry about money for the rest of her life. And it shows you the structure of what was going on back then. Women had to go and be courted and go find a guy and present themselves. And the guy would come by, and basically they chose, marriage was done by financial and political status. If your family had a background of money, or their family had a background of money, or they had some political power in office, then it was done. It's like, okay, well, this is a great union. You see, it was not about, oh, I love him and all that stuff. So, Belle will blow your mind. Clearly is number 2 on the list. Until I met number 1, which is Gone Girl. I have seen Gone Girl so many times at the show that I think I know where every little spot is, every word, I have seen Gone Girl over and over again and have still being engaged in the film. That's very hard to do. This movie is so gripping and so engaging. It could be as long as it is, and it doesn't get boring. Because the build-up and the pacing is so good, and the storytelling, it tells like a book. And once you actually get to the ending of the story, it takes you to another level. It grips you again and takes you even higher. And it's, I don't know what to say. David Fincher is on a hot streak right now. He can't do anything wrong with his films. And this one was not based on dialogue. This was based on dialogue per character. As Ben Affleck plays basically a writer, but he's befuddled by someone who's even a better writer and a better just storyteller, and his wife, who is Amy in Gone Girl. His wife Amy is gone missing. There were marriage problems that ensued, that a lot of attention is coming his way. And Affleck lived this life when he was dating Jennifer Lopez. He became like the hated man. He made movies, but he was never a tabloid type of guy before. And then all of a sudden, his picture is all in the tabloids once he's dating Jennifer Lopez. He's in the Inquirer every week. There's people out in his yard. So it was easier for him, and that's why he was picked for the role. It's because he had went through it. With all of the attention being on him when he didn't know how to deal with it or didn't want to deal with it. So this became a new thing for him. Even though he was already a successful actor, this had never been done to him before. So when he went through that with him, the shock and awe of it, and not knowing how to be politically correct and not knowing what to say in front of the media, how to avoid the media and all, that's something he had to learn. And you see a lot of it here. He was able to tap right back into that persona of awkwardness of being in that situation. And what more could we say about Rosamund Pike? I mean, she basically killed her performance in this role. She was just gritty, witty, smart, clever, into every performances to hit different character dialects, and just the way she transformed herself from normal to abnormal to, in just seconds, because she had to show that range with this character to show how unbalanced she is and how off the reservoir she is. And it also explains it by watching the film. If you watch it a few times, you will see how her childhood played an important piece of this film as to why things were this way with her while she's an adult. So, Gone Girl, clearly best film of the year. Everybody played a great performance, including Tyler Perry. I think in my film review, I told everybody, please go see Gone Girl, because it was definitely one of the films of the year. I think I did a review for Belle as well, and that is by far the best movies of the year. I did my honorable mentions, and there's another honorable mention film that I've forgotten to mention about, and it's called The Rover with Guy Pearce. Please go check out The Rover. It didn't make my honorable mentions list only by me just forgetting, but I wanted to make sure I correct that now. So you are hearing about The Rover on my top 10 list. And the guy from Twilight, Robert Pattinson, shows again, like I told you guys, listen to me when I tell you people can act. He can really act. It's just that Twilight sucked. Terrible writing, but he can act, and he's proven it. It's like water for chocolate, or water for elephants, or whatever. Look, watch that movie again and watch his performance. Believe me, Christopher Waltz played a great character in that role and took a lot of the spotlight, but he was able to hold his own with Christopher Waltz and Reese Witherspoon. So, telling you, whew, great year. 2015, you're up next.